Hey everyone, Stephen Glicker here from Roll for Combat, and I'm doing a follow-up video from the video I did about a week and a half ago in where I stated through BookScan that the D&D 2024 Player's Handbook has only sold 3,773 copies, in which everyone and then some said, no, that's not true, it's impossible. And I'm going to go through kind of all the comments and questions and things that have come up. I saw a lot on Ian World's forums. I saw a lot in my comments. There was a lot of follow-up videos of other YouTubers who did videos based on my video, and I went through everything, and I just want to go through it all. And actually, yesterday, I saw Professor Dungeon Master. I hung out with him, and he and I were talking about it. So I think it's important for me to just go through all these numbers and just, get to the bottom of this. And as a publisher, I have, a little bit behind the scenes, so I can tell you kind of where things are being sold and how reporting is done. And finally, also as a publisher, I do have a Kickstarter that ends tomorrow. So if you want to play a monster hunter and actually kill monsters and jump on them and actually use their own weapons against them, plus we have 170 new monsters that are all award-winning, and we have a new monster part system and elemental spells and all this insane stuff, just go to kickstarter.rollforcombat.com. You can get animated tokens, you can get maps, all this cool stuff that's going to end tomorrow. So you got till, well, what's it, tomorrow? October 8th. That's it. And then it ends after October 8th. So let's get into this right away. So first of all, this all started from, well, Wizards of the Coast are the ones who put out a press release that said Wizards of the Coast has announced that the 2024 Player's Handbook has become the fastest selling Dungeons & Dragons product sold ever. Or actually, Dungeons & Dragons product ever. So they said that this is the fastest selling D&D product ever in the history, blah, 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 and they were celebrating it. And then they went on to say that it, surpassed Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and it's the biggest product launch in the game's 50-year history. Now, a few things. I'm going to get into the weeds on this a little, but I just want to explain how this works, is that because Wizards/Hasbro is a publicly facing company, if they put out a press release, it has to be true. And if they don't put in truth, they will get sued. They can have a class action lawsuit against them. For example, if they said, oh, we sold 3 million copies of the Player's Handbook, someone then buys the stock, or a very large conglomerate buys the stock, thinking that Hasbro is going to do really well. It turns out they actually only sold 100,000, even though they put out a press release saying how well they did, and then they get a class action lawsuit, and they'll actually lose. So they have to tell the truth. So that's the first thing. So is this press release factual? The answer is yes. However, as someone who's been working in PR for 31 years for Fortune 500 companies as my day job, I can tell you how this was written was very careful. So they said here, it's the fastest selling D&D product ever. And then they also said here that this is the biggest product launch. Okay, they didn't say hardcover book. They didn't say, oh, Player's Handbook. They did a lot of inference. Because what is a product? What can be a product? Well, it's whatever they want it to be, because it's a very generic term. If they want to say, does the product include all of their sales at Gen Con, the 3,000 books they sold there, plus the pre-sales, plus all of their, I'm going to look into this, plus all their digital sales, plus this bundle, is that included in there? Plus Foundry, plus Roll20, plus every other digital platform, plus all the pre-sales at all the flags. If they want to take every single nook and cranny and combine that into the word product, the answer is yes, they can, because those are all related. So they're very careful to always call this a product. So that's the first thing that you should look at, is that they're talking about the product. They're talking about every single combination of any aspect of the Player's Handbook that you can find in the world, combine it into the sales, and then we'll go from there. Okay? So that's the first thing. Now, the next thing is that a lot of people, the most commonly heard thing is that it's impossible that it only sold 3. Oh, they actually increased it, by the way. This does get updated. This is actually BookScan. Last week it was 3,773. Now it's 3,785. So they updated their numbers. So it is up a little bit. But what BookScan does is it only reports weekly sales, and that's it. So last week, for September 15th to 21st, this is how many it sold. This last week, actually September 22nd to the 28th, people wanted me to follow up. It sold 1,841. So it's up to a grand total of 5,626. Let's, by the way, I was just curious. Let's take a look at the Player's Handbook, the 2014. And this is interesting because you can see here that they actually had weird pre-sales. Okay, these were like little sales like in the month of May and June. This is way before it actually came out because it didn't come out until August, but they actually did have some weird sales ahead of time. What that's all about, I'm not exactly sure. But you can see that when it actually came out, it sold 22,090 copies. And what BookScan, it's pretty. BookScan only reports USA totals. But according to BookScan, and since they do all the big box stores and they do Amazon, they approximate that they're about 85% of the book market. Yes and no. Okay, we're going to get to that in a minute, what that really means. But then you can see, 8,000 next week, 4,000 and so forth. But it's per week. Okay, this is per week. So does this number include the 3,000 books that were sold at Gen Con? No, because those books were sold in August. Those books were sold in August. And more importantly, they were direct sales. BookScan does not include direct sales. How do I know? Because I sell books, and I can look up my own books in here, and I sell thousands of books through my own website, battlezoo.com, and they're not in here because I don't report to BookScan, so that doesn't include anything direct. And guess what? This is direct sales, okay? Anything sold through D&D Beyond in their marketplace is a direct sale. Anything sold through Foundry or Roll20 is a direct sale. These are all considered direct sales. And guess what? Flags and hobby stores, those are direct sales too. They might have a couple in here, but they don't have that many. Okay, they just don't. I was actually curious to see how the other books did. And if you could see the Dungeon Master's Guide, you could see, actually, again, pretty interesting. They started to release it in May, but they actually even had some pre-sales. But then way when it finally was released in December, then it sold 26,000. And this number's going to be interesting because the DMG is coming out in about 4 weeks, and we'll be able to compare numbers. And then, actually, so we'll get to the second dungeon. Here's the Monster Manual. Again, look, it came out in May. Look at this. They actually had pre-sales. They actually had 3 books sold way back in May. And then here we go, September 8th at 16,000. So you can kind of get an idea where the numbers were at. For the original, it was about 16,000 the first week. For the Monster Manual, 26,000 for the DMG, and 22,000 for the Player's Handbook. That's actually weird that the DMG actually sold more than the... Actually, that's not true, because, the people that are the hardcore, fans, the ones that are always going to buy it no matter what, are the Dungeon Masters. So I'd expect overall sales, by the way, are much lower, because the Dungeon Master's Guide has only sold 894,000 copies total since its release, as opposed to the Player's Handbook, which has sold 1.7 million. And again, this does not include direct sales or sales through hobby stores, so this number is way, way higher in reality. And then finally, let's take a look here at Tasha's. And Tasha's in its first week, and you can see they didn't do a pre-sale. It did 133,100. And then, 7,000 actually went up. But this makes sense because this was Christmas, and this was actually, here's what is really interesting, okay? This is overall, I'm pointing to overall sales. Overall sales on hardcover, this was the second best-selling book that week, period. Okay, obviously number 1 in games. That was the number 2 book. Like, if you looked at I don't know if it was actually there, but under USA Today, I believe USA Today gets their sales numbers from BookScan, but if under New York Times bestselling list, this was number 2. This would have been number 2, and this was in Christmas. I mean, that is insane. So this book sold ridiculously well. I mean, this is like, wait, when they're not kidding, when this thing sold well, like, they ain't kidding. This thing sold freaking gangbusters. All right, now let's take a look at D&D Beyond. Why does it keep asking me where I live? I live in the United States. Stop that. Okay, so if you go here, what is the first thing you see? Get the 2024 Player's Handbook today. And then, pre-order the Dungeon Master. Like, they are really pushing hard for direct sales. And then if you look, here we go. The very first thing it does is, for me, it switches to digital. And it looks like, okay, $30, because they want you to get the digital. They want you to sign up for D&D Beyond. Okay, that's where they make all their money. And more importantly, this is pure profit. They don't need to send out a book. They don't need to print a book. They don't need to do anything. This is pure profit. So this is what they're pushing. And let me tell you, they probably sold at least hundreds of thousands of copies of these digital versions of the Player's Handbook. And I guarantee you that was part of their calculation. And, if you go here, digital, physical, you get a nice little discount. I mean, that's actually a good deal. I would do that if I didn't have like 15 copies of it already. I mean, it's like $60. You get the digital and the physical version. That's pretty good. And then if you want the physical version, again, $49.99. Yeah, standard stuff. But more importantly, look, they're pushing the bundle. And of course, people want to do the bundle. Okay, the bundle is a good deal. Okay, yeah, it's a little expensive, $180, but you get everything. And you save, of course. Save, that's the first thing you do. I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't put this in bold. But that's number one. You always put in the savings right at the top. $60. Valued at $240. Digital only bundle. Physical only bundle. Like here, they even have, like, you actually have to click to get to these. But this is what I found really interesting, is that if you go to the rulebooks page, and then you go under bestsellers, okay, and this is by their own internal, sorting, and I got to expect that this is correct. Look at what is the best sellers, okay? It is the number one bestseller is the digital form. Look at this, right up here, number one. Then number two is, so this is digital physical, then digital, then the player's handbook, then the Dungeon Master's Guide, then the physical bundle, then the monster manual, okay? And then, well, what are you not surprised? Tasha's, and like, I didn't bring up the numbers, but these are accurate. Like, if you compare this to BookScan, this ranking is pretty accurate in terms of where these numbers lie. So, if you look at this is where they're getting the sales, okay? And this is what they wanted. They actually reclassified the book as a toy in the United States. I actually talked about this months and months and months ago when they lost Penguin as a distributor. I said they were going to reclassify as a toy. There's a lot of reasons. First, you can't return toys. Books can be returned. They sell at a higher profit margin. And also, books you actually have to list in the catalogs anywhere from 6 to 9 months ahead of time. Toys you can do as little as 6 weeks ahead of time. There's a lot of value for reclassifying your D&D product as a toy. I can't even, there's actually even legal reasons in terms of tariffs. There's actually a 10% tariff on books, but if it's a game material, it's 0. So you could actually get away with 0% tariffs. Like, there's all these reasons why you want to go as an actual toy instead of a book. So because of that, you can't even really find these things. I don't think, from what I've been hearing, you can't get it at Target, the new books, not the old books, and you can't get them at Walmart. And those, they sell something like, I forgot what the number is, but something like almost 1 out of 10 things in the United States. I don't know if it's true anymore, but it used to be like 1 out of every 10 things sold in the United States was sold at Walmart, okay? It is a gargantuan amount. A lot of things, I'll put it this way, between Target and Walmart, combine them, I wouldn't be surprised if 1 out of every 10 things sold in the United States was sold through both of those. Because it used to just be Walmart. Now Target's so big. So not being in a Walmart or a Target is a big deal. You're going to lose out on a lot of sales. So this is what they do. And this has actually been done by other companies. This is being done with movies and, more importantly, video games. And anyone who's a regular watcher of my channel will know that anything you see in the video game world, the Dungeons and Dragons TTRPG world, will follow up anywhere from 5 to 10 years later. They have purposely been making games almost impossible to buy. They want them to be bought digitally. They want it to be bought online, and they want to lock you into these ecosystems, okay? That is what video games are all about nowadays, is to locking people into these ecosystems, so there's no more console wars, okay? The console wars are pretty much done. And they did this by purposely slowly removing their content from the shelves of some of these stores. Is it still there? Yes. Is it as prevalent as it used to be? Lord, no. A good example is Best Buy. Best Buy used to have the video games. Actually, video games used to be all the way in the back, and then later they were brought all the way to the front, and now they've been brought all the way to the back again because they just don't sell like they used to. But they used to sell, and they used to do gangbusters, so they were all the way to the front. The few exceptions is like when Grand Theft Auto comes out, they'll obviously still have midnight sales, and that'll be all the way in the front. Some of the big, best-selling games, those will be in the front, but otherwise it's very rare. So what they've been doing is moving slowly and forcing people to go online and buy digital. D&D Beyond and WoTC is run by all Microsoft execs and all Xbox execs. They're using the exact same player's handbook. They're doing the exact same handbook as what the video games do, is that they're forcing people to go online. They're forcing people to go to D&D Beyond, and they're forcing them to buy the products here because they being WoTC, just make so much more money. It's God smacks more money on every digital product sold than a physical product sold. More importantly, also, a physical product sold, you are limited to the market you're selling that book in, whether it's the United States or Europe or Asia or wherever you're at. A digital product, you have the whole world. Okay, you can sell it anywhere in the world, and it's the same. It's the same amount of effort to sell a digital product in Asia that it is in the United States. So I can spend it forever. I don't need to go through this. You can figure this out. But there's no reason not to, and the whole world is going digital for this very reason. So back to the original question: did it only sell, according to BookScan? Did it only sell 3,785 copies physically last week total? No, of course not. It sold way more than that if you include everything. But is this a larger picture of where D&D is going, to a digital-only future where the only place where you're going to be able to find the books is in flags and hobby stores and game conventions and online and Amazon? Yes, it is. And more importantly, this is what they want. This is their goal. This is not them. They're happy. In fact, they're probably thrilled that all of their sales, the majority of their sales, were online. They are probably going to tout this in their next quarterly reports. They're probably going to go on and say how amazing it is, how great D&D Beyond is doing, how great their digital online platforms are doing, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do a whole section on this. So those of you who are like, oh, my own, flag sold 5,000 copies, that number's wrong. Again, you're right. The number is wrong because your store was not counted in those numbers. Okay, you're completely correct. And more importantly, I have nothing to do with BookScan. I'm just letting you know. If you have issues with BookScan's numbers, write them, contact them. But I will continue to follow this. I am curious to see. And will we ever find out what the actual numbers are? No, we probably never will, because it's a private company. They don't need to release the numbers. WoTC never ever needs to release what the numbers are. The only time we're ever going to find out is if they're either hacked and then we can actually see sales figures, or if somebody leaves the company and then says what the sales figures are. Otherwise, we will literally never know really what D&D is selling. We'll just be able to infer through third-party sources, through how other books are selling, and that's about it. Anyhow, with that, do check out our live show every Wednesday here on Roll for Combat at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're actually going to have a special episode where if you want to break into the world of TTRPGs, we're going to have some freelancers on. They're going to explain how they broke in, and they're going to give you some tips and tricks on how you can break into the world and get your stuff published. And once again, also don't forget, check out Battles Through Bestiary, Elemental Storm over at Kickstarter at rollforcombat.com, because it ends this week, and then it's gone forever, and all that really cool savings and all the Kickstarter only stuff, including a limited edition cover, will be gone forever. So check that out. You only got a day or two left. Anyhow, with that, I will see and talk to you guys later.